So, welcome everybody to the second hour of MindShifters Radio. And today is Wednesday, October the 18th, 2023. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1. And that puts you into queue on the switchboard. And we know you want to talk to us instead of that you're just out there listening. We'd love to hear from you because when we hear your questions and comments, it makes it your show and directs us in the direction that you want to hear the show go for the day. We're here to support you, and that's our way of supporting you. And so if you have a question, press 1, and that puts a hand up. If you're listening on another station that we can't see you on their switchboard, then dial 563-999-3581 and press 1. We'll give Michael just a moment to dial in, and while we're waiting, I will read something to you. There's another, so I get 3 things every day. One is from Diedrich Wolfsack, one is from Educari Unlearning, and the other one is from Edgar Cayce. And this morning, the unlearning insight for the day was clarity. And I read it to Michael. I said, it sounds like we're all on the same page doing the same work. But it says, clarity is innate. It arrives when there is no resistance to the way life is being. Our quote-unquote figure-it-out mind is searching for the clarity that only comes from the soul. The soul receives, reveals, and unfolds the highest order of the universe that you are ready for. Can you let yourself relax into receiving unmanifested potential as it takes form? The conditioned mind gets afraid of this because it ignorantly trusts the buckets of knowledge that it has gathered and stored, more than the river of truth that's waiting to pour itself out for you. One way to develop this capacity is to try writing without editing, suppressing, or controlling that which is unfolding. Another is to meditate by observing without grasping whatever floats through consciousness, independent of the content. With practice, you will surprise your mind with the new clarity that arrives, often speaking ideas you have never thought of before. And I thought that, it's exactly what we teach. No resistance to the way life is. That's letting go of your goals, to stop trying to figure it out. That's a pseudo-solution. And to wait and let yourself relax into receiving. A lot of people, we've done in intensives, we have done exercises where you send and receive love, like you're just doing a love exchange. And so many people, they do fine in the sending, and they will tell us afterwards that they had a hard time receiving. And I don't know if that's from, past experiences, or if it's from feeling that they're not worthy or whatever, but to be able to relax into just receiving what potential takes form in your life. And then the part about one way to do it is to write without editing, suppressing, or controlling what's unfolding. That's our MindShifters, just doing the journaling and letting it flow without trying to figure out what you're writing down or if it even makes sense. And then, of course, meditating and breathing and being independent of the content, just letting whatever flows flow. And, that's where we talk about being the observer or being the actor apart from the action, and so all of that was just so much like what we teach, and so I wanted to share that with you today. And then the one that came with Diedrich today, he quoted Krishnamurti and said, "You can only be afraid of what you think you know." And then he goes on to say, "There is nothing to be afraid of ever. So afraid of the unknown." Well, that is never true. As soon as I dig a little, I find what I am afraid of is a replay of stuff that I made up a long time ago. I am insane. So I thought that was cute too. And so wanted to share those with you today, and hope you're having a good day, a blessed day. Had a good time yesterday afternoon with Arya. Ryan's on vacation this week, so we've been limited in the amount of time that we have her here, and it was fun being with her. And Michael was teaching her. We were playing a game of food, and so she was the cook, and she was fixing like hamburgers and things like that. It was fake food, of course, at her little play stove, and so she brought it over, and Michael said, well, that's not good food combining. And she started to get a little bit like, ugh, and she goes, well, I haven't learned that yet. And he says, let me tell you about it. And so he started talking about, that if you're going to eat meat, you eat it with like a salad. You don't eat it with potatoes. And that's what they always serve in restaurants is potatoes and meat. Or, potatoes and salad go together, or meat and salad go together. And you don't mix fruit with it. And we had eaten some watermelon just a little bit earlier, and so he explained to her how quickly watermelon digests, and so you don't want to eat something big on top of it. And so anyway, she sat there and listened and learned, so it was fun. I see Michael has joined us, so I'm going to say welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. And it's sweet how receptive she is, isn't it? Just amazing.
Yes, it is.
Willing to learn. Well, I'm going to ask everybody to hold space for me today. This morning I woke up with the inclination to do an article on what's happening in the Middle East right now from a point of view of responsibility. I went through some of the same jitters that I did about 15 years ago, Jeanie, when we spoke at the Holocaust Museum in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
And I actually went into one of the deepest healing crises I've ever been in, one of the most traumatic to the next day. But we had spoken, there was a gentleman who'd done our work for several years, and he was a member of a congregation there in Fort Lauderdale, and he wanted to bring forgiveness into the congregation. So he asked his rabbi to check me out, which he did. I got full approval the minute that I mentioned that I was working with the Aramaic. His response was, all of our wisdom keepers were Aramaic. If that's what you're doing, you're in. Was it like that easy to get permission to speak? And we ended up speaking at a Shabbat service. And then out of that came, there was someone who, I don't remember, they worked at or knew somebody at the Holocaust Museum, and so they invited me to come and do a Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. And with great trepidation, I brought up the Holocaust and what needed to happen for healing to occur. And I don't remember how many people we had. I'm thinking maybe 7,500 in that room down there. And there was such receptivity. I didn't mention Yeshua's name. I didn't mention anything from the New Testament. Everything could be verified from Old Testament quotes. So started out, and this morning, as I say, I had this inclination to write about that. So I started out with a quote from Job. And give me 1 second here while I look at this.
You also, at the Holocaust Museum, spoke of that were involved, like we were talking about yesterday, involved in our life and not the victim.
Exactly. That was the whole point of it, and that's where I'm going with this. Just give me 1 second here while I catch up with my... So Job 3:25, he teaches us a really powerful lesson. That which I feared most has come upon me. A family, many families, wiped out. Again, question mark? And they were interviewing some people here in the States who had family killed in the recent attack in Israel. And the question that they ask is, literally they were quoted in the article, we really don't understand why this happened to us. So, pretty shocking event. And the answer is rather shocking too, if you're really well groomed in the ways of the world. Because there's only one answer that will ever bring serenity, that will ever bring healing into reach with this generational war that's gone on between brothers for too darn long. And then I quote from Samuel, 1 Samuel 15:3. And here's an instruction, supposedly comes from God. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox, sheep, camel, and ass. And then Joshua 6:21 again, ostensibly from God, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox, sheep, ass, with the edge of a sword. Another version of that passage says, go in and clean house, don't leave anything breathing. Don't leave a donkey, a child, a woman, an old man, or an old woman breathing. Wipe out Jericho. So what's the work that's required for real healing? And I go on with the article to say, as long as the traumatic energetic memories remain unresolved in the genes, in the family systems, in the teachings of people, generation after generation will live in the desert of unresolved internal trauma, expressed as destructive action in the world. Many, if not all of our wounds, and therefore our pain, are rooted in genetically inherited traumas, multi-generational assaults, reinforced through unconscious actions, generation after generation, stored and repeated ad nauseum. Each pain perception appears to be different, but all are based in that hidden, dissociated trauma that, when activated, obscures the subtle, permanently available experience of ourselves as our true nature, love. And most will say, forgive the perpetrators. Please, that person knows nothing about removing trauma from your genes. If someone tells you that you need to forgive another or yourself, understand that they know nothing about actual forgiveness. Never forgive anyone, but forgive continuously. So, if you're feeling frustrated, angry, annoyed, terrorized, murderous, rage, afraid, lonely, aversion, fill in the blank, responding out of wounds, blaming others, blaming yourself, if you're unable to hold the mind of love in yourself, it is always an opportunity to heal the pain constructs of my own body, mind, nervous system. Sadly, when I hold unresolved pain or trauma within, it's easy to put the underlying energies of that trauma into my brain's internally constructed perceptual images of others, pretending that they're the cause. In this way, my mind's trauma or pain-based interpretation of events appears to be the truth, which directly leads away from understanding what is really going on and from true healing. Again, I repeat, many, if not all of our wounds, and therefore our pain, are rooted in genetically inherited traumas, multi-generational assaults reinforced through unconscious actions, generation after generation, stored and repeated ad nauseum. So these things are never imposed from the outside. Blocks to the awareness of ourselves as love are internal and removable if one has the technology to do so. All healing, return to love, is a strictly inside job. The act of removing that intergenerational trauma is the true definition of forgiveness. All perception is autobiographical. The constructs of our mind tell us, first and foremost, what is going on inside of us. Until generational traumas are removed, we're easily tricked into believing the false pictures and perceptions generated by our minds. As long as we believe that something outside of us is the cause, rather than just a trigger of what's moving within, we inhabit a world of lies. Feelings do not come from seeing something. They come from internally generated energies, all self-imposed. Flamers would do well to understand denial, the act of thinking or speaking, as though something outside of oneself is the cause of what is moving inside. Denial results in instant dissociation, the hiding of truth which blocks awareness of one's own internal dynamics, resulting in an unnatural condition called the unconscious mind. Carl Jung, describing the source of this unconsciousness and the seemingly unavoidable repeating of painful experiences, explains how trauma recurs until resolved by the action of changing old familial habits of mind. Jung says, quote, "Whatever is rejected from the self appears," I'll interject there through blame, "in the world," interjecting again, called perception, "as an event." Once again, whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. We meet ourselves, again interjecting in his quote, in our projections on others, time and again, in a thousand disguises on the path of life. Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. Jung goes on to say, everything that appears to irritate us about others can lead to understanding of oneself. Actually, I interjected the appears to. His quote actually says, everything that irritates us about others can lead to understanding oneself. So it seems like that little piece was missing for him because, of course, no one can do anything that can irritate us. But if there's irritation in us, there'll be a whole procession of people that seem to be able to irritate us. We must put an end to the multi-generational fantasy of victimhood that many mistakenly swear is true. And there is a wonderful piece of music. If you haven't heard it yet, I suggest you go to YouTube and I'm just searching for the words. It's a great tune, it's a great piece of music, but beyond that, we need to listen to the words. And here are the words to Alanis Morissette's song. If I could play it, I'd play it, but we can't. But I suggest you get on YouTube and give it a listen because there's a really nice tune to it. It's one you can catch and really integrate the thoughts. I've been most unwilling to see this turmoil of mine. The thought of sitting with this has me paralyzed. This prolonged exposure to mirror and averted eyes, of course that's being in a relationship, I feigned that I've been waiting such mileage or empathizing, like this person should fix it for me. And now I see the madness in me is brought out in the presence of you. Now I know the madness lives on when you're not in the room. And though I'd love to blame you for all, I'd miss these moments of opportune. You've simply brought this madness to light, and I should thank you. And the refrain comes in, oh, thank you. Much thanks for this bird's eye view. Oh, thank you for your most generous triggers. You think she'd been in WISE, this happening to me again workshop. Obviously, to write this, she's done her work. Been all too easy to cross my arms and roll my eyes. The thought of dropping all arms leaves me terrified. So she talked about now when you start to let the defenses down, you let the veil of the temple open, and you start to touch into what's in there. And now I see the madness in me is brought out in the presence of you. Now I know the madness lives on when you're not in the room, and though I'd love to blame you for all, I miss these moments of opportunity. You simply brought this madness to light, and I should thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks for this bird's eye view. Oh, thank you for your most generous triggers. Now, can you see yourself just smiling when somebody brings your deepest stuff up and saying thank you for that trigger? Yeah, right. And then she goes on, I'd have to give up knowing and give up being right. You inadvertent hero, you angel in disguise. Once again, and now I see the madness in me is brought out in the presence of you. Now I know the madness lives on when you're not in the room, and though I'd love to blame you, I miss these moments of opportunity, this madness delight, and I should thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks for this bird's eye view. Thank you for your most generous triggers. Actually, and I'm just seeing here under the words to the song, it was written by Alanis Morissette and someone named Guy Sigsworth. So thank you, Guy and Alanis, for the standing, for having done your work to just be able to even think those thoughts, to write those words. And if I'm just basically reading through the article to share it with you, ask you to hold the space by integrating it and understanding it on a deeper level. And if you have any questions, please push one, and Jeanie, please interrupt me, and we'll go into questions, into refinements if they're needed. But you know, one of my objectives in reading this is just to take the whole vibration of this, the whole pattern of energy, of understanding, and put it out into massive numbers of minds so that those minds can be shifted out of the hostility and fear-based projections. So once again, we must put an end to the multi-generational fantasy of victimhood that many mistakenly swear is true. Have you been through a particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people? You're the only one that was there every time. Denial sounds like, you made me so mad, you made me so sad, you made me so afraid, you hurt me. I'm your innocent victim. And it's interesting, in our culture, victimhood kind of has this energy of righteousness, or of it's got to be true. And so it's upheld in the culture. And I'll invite, anybody that's playing the victim game, whoever you're playing the victim card with, it might be time to let that go and look at the next layer of your own mind, because the very things that people don't want to look at and deal with are the very things that are most urgent to be dealt with. And rest assured, life will give you every opportunity you need. For when you're in denial, you are unconsciously directing the show. And life's purpose, when we dissociate from pain, is to kick us right square in the limitation. So how do we make the unconscious conscious? The tools for reliably doing that, doing what in the ancient teachings was called opening the veil of the temple, beneath which we keep our pain hidden, the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind, and the removal of assault energy appeared on Earth 2,000 years ago in the Aramaic language. That ancient tool of forgiveness is a process that uncovers and removes what we've hidden from ourselves through denial, hidden within ourselves. Pardoning, change forgiveness from an internal process to an outer directed act. Forgive, let them off the hook, we've been told. But that errant directive, this simple, effective healing technology of forgiveness, was lost to humanity. In the Greek misinterpretation, we're convinced we need to be forgiven for something, rather than realize there's something to be forgiven, something to be removed from our minds. This slippery twist has left millions letting others off the hook for what is generated by their own minds rather than taking responsibility and removing from their minds, that is, forgiving, projecting hidden, often generational content within themselves. So letting someone outside of us off the hook for what's going on inside of us will never rid of us of our experience of internally generated hurt, upset, or pain. Outer-directed acts do not bring connection to internally generated dynamics. Pardon me, do not bring correction to internally generated dynamics. Engaging in actual forgiveness creates a visceral opening that facilitates the flow of love and light to every instant, every experience of our lives and physiology. Alone or lonely, afraid or sad, rageful or hateful, through forgiveness, the space is created for love to flow into that clean and open space within your mind. And the transmutation, the removal of the energy of pain happens in an instant of actual forgiveness. Lived pain or turmoil is always an invitation to end denial, to learn, and to apply forgiveness. And of course, if you haven't done the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop recently, we'd suggest or invite you to go ahead and do that. There's several ways to do it. You can download the book from our website. If you go to whyagain.org, there's a picture of the book cover in the middle of the page. If you click on it and drill down, you can download it in any one of, I'm not even sure now how many, 12, 13, 14 languages, whatever it is. You can go to whyagain.org again and click on our YouTube channel. Just look where the media links are, where the social media is. Click on YouTube. And then look for Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Back in, I think it was June, I did a 3-hour Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop that we decided, instead of being a product in our catalog that people would have to purchase, would be there free. So you can watch that video. This would be the place to really put it. So perception, the world we think we see with our eyes, is an hologram generated out of past content, a projection of the mind. We see nothing with our eyes, we see with our brains. There is no life in a hologram. There's an awesome video done by a gentleman named Anil Seth, who's a neuroscientist. Here's a quote from that video. Perception is a mental construct generated by the mind, body, nervous system. Quote, the whole world we think we see is an hallucination unique to each person. When we agree on our shared hallucination, we call it reality. And then I put a quote on the CIA research, which we've talked about many times over the years on the show, where the CIA was doing research on how to improve perception, just what perception was, so that their intelligence analysts could more effectively do their jobs. There's a link on our website to the book. We actually used to link it on the CIA website, but it's moved around and disappeared a couple of times, so we finally put a copy of it on our website. So as a result of whatever, I don't know how many millions of dollars of your money they spent, you might as well benefit from this information. It's your money paid for it. Here's what the CIA says, quote, perception is a demonstrably active rather than passive process. It constructs rather than records reality. Construct their own version of reality. Your mind, based on content resonated by experiences, literally constructs the world you see. Reality, or perception, the output of the mind, is either a high-quality, accurate picture, poor quality, deceptive projection. The experience of the presence of love in one's physiology indicates the mind is on track. Any form of fear and or hostility is an indicator that the mind is using corrupt data to build its projections rather than reflect accurate information about actuality. When you see corrupt data, the mind massages its unconscious content into pictures that appear to be of external things. And I tell you that you're the cause of what's happening inside of me, I become the equivalent of a full-fledged, card-carrying member of the universal one-world religion of blame. All perception, the world made up by us, including sensations in the body, are autobiographical. Projection is the act of pretending something outside of me, causing what's moving inside of me. It is the act of building realities out of resonated internal content and pretending that hologram, that image, is actually out there. So there's work to be done. Other videos you might want to look at on our YouTube channel, What is the World? And I think if you just do the search bar when you're in our page, ACIM, What is the World? And then the instructions for how to forgive are there in the Why is Happening Comedian Workshop. You can also search our App Store, or your App Store on your phone, for Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And what you'll find is a set of instructions for how to engage in the forgiveness process. The worksheet process is right there. It is a purposely designed, it's an app that's purposely designed, to be totally and completely private. So we invite you to take it, go to work, have some fun with it. It's an awesome tool, and there is a link on each page in the app. If you come across a question and you're not sure what to do with something, click the link, ask your question, hit the send button. Jeanie will get the question. We'll read it on our next radio show, answer the question, and then we'll pass the information back to you by email to let you know where your answer is. And so that's the post I put on that I ask everybody to hold the space for, that it goes out into the world with the intention. I know that some people who live in the game of denial and blame might want to bring assault or insult to it. So I'll just ask everybody to just hold the space, that anything less than love that comes up for anyone reading it heals, and the true intention of it and the technology becomes available. The people are willing to receive it and ultimately willing to take it to the world, make it available on a mass scale, that we can take this technology, this understanding, and put it into practice, so that atrocities like what happened last week are ended on the earth, whether they're little personal atrocities that happen in family systems, and this is just a major atrocity happening in a family system. These guys are brothers. Like, what happened? As I was doing some research for that article this morning, I found an interesting piece of information that I did not know. If you go back to the story of Abraham and sacrificing Isaac in the Old Testament, what I found today was a piece of information that says that in the Quran, it isn't a story about Abraham sacrificing Isaac, it's Abraham sacrificing Ishmael. The story's changed, different son, which just has some interesting implications. So that's my story for today. How's that fit for everybody?
You have a hand up.
All right, let's say hello.
It is 610. Hi, Susan.
Hey, Michael.
Welcome, young lady. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for this. This has been front and center of my work and thoughts. I wonder, first of all, I missed, where did you put this? Where did you post this that you wrote?
I posted on Facebook today with some trepidation, with the intensity of the conflict that's going on in Israel right now, and the conflict going on in America with people who, are taking all sides of the argument, and politicians praising Hamas for their murderous rage and talking about how intelligent they are. It's pretty bizarre.
Right. Okay.
And
okay.
Trauma. Yeah. It's nothing but an expression of trauma. And when we can get somebody big enough minds big enough to hold the space for the healing of that trauma, no matter how terrible the perpetrator's behavior seems to be, or how terrible the response is to the perpetrator's behavior, then we're going to start changing the game on planet Earth, and it's time.
And you said, sorry, I mustn't have been listening, but you said you went through a healing crisis while writing this, or this brought up a healing crisis from a long time ago?
Well, no, I was talking about when I this morning I awoke. That's usually my time when I get my best guidance. It's first thing in the morning before I get up,
right.
And I had the whole situation that's gone on with the murders in the Middle East and such, and the inclination to write an article about it. And I went through some of the same. What I started out explaining was back about 15 years ago, and you've heard me speak about this before on the show. We were invited to speak at a synagogue in Florida, and then ended up doing the "Why Is This Happening to Me Again" workshop, where I had a similar trepidation to what I had this morning of putting this out. Of here I am at the Holocaust Museum with a room full of Jewish people, and I'm going to talk about being responsible for what happened.
Okay.
And that there was some trepidation in that for me. And the next day, the workshop, the receptivity for that message was awesome. And the next day I went into one of the deepest physical healing crises I've ever had. And maybe tomorrow I'll go into another one. I don't know. I'm willing. But some of the same trepidation showed up about posting this in a public forum.
Right.
So it's there on the Facebook page.
I don't know if I have the right to ask, but what did the healing crisis, what was it like? How did it manifest?
We were getting ready to, we were getting on a plane the next day. Where were we flying? Do you remember, Jeanie? I don't remember now. Somewhere in Europe or?
I don't remember.
Or we were going on a cruise? It might have been a cruise. I'm not sure. Anyway, my sides around my lungs, which has been my nemesis, broke out in shingles, which I'd never had before and have never had since. And it was intense.
Oh, boy. Yes, it would be.
And I realized, I knew right away that the energy from the healing, the flow of information, the opening that happened in the workshop the day before in the Holocaust Museum in Fort Lauderdale, that new vitality was what opened that for me and allowed my body to let go of whatever it was that it needed to let go of. But it was pretty intense.
Oh, it sounds that way. Well, again, I'm just so glad this is where my mind has been, so it's wonderful to have you on the radio show talking about it, because that's what's right up in front. And there is, there are available triggers all over the place. I remember, and you're in my age range, I remember as a child, people building bomb shelters, we taking cover under desks at school, being told that this is going to be bad and there may be bombs. And whenever we heard an airplane go over, we froze in fear. That was back then. And my mind goes bananas now and says, well, this is even worse. This could be worse, combined with everything else that's going on, climate change and so forth. You think that was bad. Now it's really bad. My mind is going bananas with this stuff, and I'm using the tools, but it's good to talk. And I think it's wonderful that I haven't read what you posted, but I can imagine that's what's needed, is a correction all around, all sides. No one to blame, just let's get to work before this goes any further. I've been reading and listening to things too. Noam Chomsky, who I admire so much, but yet, Jordan Peterson, he interviewed Netanyahu, and Netanyahu's whole take is so different than Gabor Mate, who speaks as a Jew, saying, I cried every day in Gaza for 3 weeks when I was there, saying how he sees the pain on both sides. These things have been very informative. What, Michael?
For the assault.
Yeah. Right. And to give it enough of a margin to remember to breathe and do the work, take a side. Tim Bingham and I have it more, because his mother's Jewish, and he automatically goes to the support of Israel. But I've been feeding him all these videos, and he says, yeah, and he's loosening up and realizing the way you have how much we need to do this work.
Well, I can remember when we were presenting in the Holocaust Museum in Fort Lauderdale. I think the turnaround point when I started to present about that was bringing forward, pointing out that the whole story of Job is nothing but a story of a healing crisis. And Job's final realization is, that which I feared most has come upon me.
Huge. And
it all turns on that. Without that piece of information, without that insight, it's the world we paint on the inside of our eyeballs with our unresolved trauma sure does look like it's out there, and we sure can pull people in to play it out for us.
Yep. True. Well,
when they said in the scriptures, nothing will remain hidden, everything will be made known in the light of day, I think that's what they were referring to, that, whatever it is that I hold in me that I don't want to deal with, somebody's going to show up. It's like it's the law. It's the way it works.
Amazing.
And when we move it, the insight, the wisdom, and then for Yeshua to come along, and a lot of Christianity want to claim him as one of theirs, but he was a Jew. Like, that's the bottom line. He was a rabbi. That's the bottom line. Like, stop this stuff that he's anything other than that. But he understood what drove perception. He understood that it was goals, and he understood what needed to happen was the canceling of those goals. And right now you look at both sides in this conflict, and what are their goals? They're all about destroying, and I shouldn't say all because there are many people who are speaking differently about it. But so much of it is about how I'm going to destroy you. Where my whole reason for existence is to make sure you're not on the face of the earth anymore. Well,
right.
If one were successful in carrying out that mission and either side wiping the other off the face of the earth, guess what would happen? The earth would grow another population who would do the same attacks, because the attacks come from within. They're a reflection of what's going on inside of us. Again, Job, that which I feared most has come upon me. So what do I need to do? Well over 300 times, some people theorize, I don't know who's ever counted it, but that in the scriptures, there's one time for every day of the year, 365 times, where it says, fear not.
Yeah.
And yet most of the world is living in fear. Because they've got it backward.
Yep. And this is like a mass scale demonstration of the things we personally deal with in our own psyches.
Yes.
Like a macro show of the mini show.
Well, there was another occasion where, and this goes back, I'm not even sure how many years ago, 20 plus years ago, and I was invited to speak at a Jewish Women's Service League in Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
And it was back when the Russians weren't allowing Jews out of Russia. And there was a women's organization that was sponsoring a conference, and the speaker before me was up there railing about never again.
Yeah.
And I got up to speak about forgiveness and responsibility. And this group of, I don't even remember how many it was. It was quite a few, 100 plus, might have been 200, I don't know, women. It was a service club. And everybody joined, when I explained the forgiveness process and the counseling calls, everybody joined and did a worksheet on forgiveness regarding the situation going on in Russia.
Wow.
And it was just a matter of weeks, and Russia started to let the Jews out of Russia.
Oh, God.
It was a matter of weeks. We're creators, and until we get that message and can see that what shows up in our lives is our reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Tough world to live in the blame game.
Yeah. Easy to find ammunition.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All you have to do is just say one phrase. You made me, and your mind will show you that the problem's outside of you. Our whole, I feel so blessed that one day I was teaching Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, and, at the top of the board for the first 20 plus years that I taught forgiveness, there were 3 words on top of the board. There was deny, suppress, and project. And what I understood at that time was when we deny, that is, we don't want to deal with something. That was my definition of denial back then. Then we suppress it in ourselves. We hide it from ourselves. And then we project it. And one of the, to me, in terms of specific upgrades in my memory to the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop as I developed it, was when I changed the middle word in that 3-word gathering at the top of the board, and it became deny, dissociate, project. And I was literally taught, I was literally told, this is one of those occasions where, I'm really clear when the Aramaic talks about ruka dukucha, she who undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. I was literally instructed, not by a voice that had any sound to it, but by a voice that said it's not deny, suppress, it's deny and dissociate. And I was shown that dissociation took it to, it wasn't just suppressing it, hiding it from yourself somewhere. Literally, dissociation meant it's no longer mine. I can no longer affect change in this. And it's what I dissociate from is hidden inside of me, and it's going to run my life. That was, in my memory of 40-some years of developing the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, that's one of the pinnacle moments, for me of, wow, what a major shift in understanding to just change that word suppress to dissociate.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
Dissociate. I'm picturing these 3 words in a physical way, left, middle, and right. When you say suppress, you're pushing it below your awareness. When you dissociate, I get the feeling that you still have perfectly clear access to it.
Well, my take would be actually the opposite. My take is that when you dissociate, you have 0 access to it directly. Okay. But because you put the energy of shutting it down into it, you've intensified that energy within yourself, which means that you will send out a literal, measurable, high-energy wave that through resonance will draw somebody to do that to you. And when they do, and this is like the drive of life to heal itself, when they do that terrible thing that you've dissociated from, it resonates, the dissociated part of the mind, and now you go into indirect relationship with it by projecting it into your brain's image of them, by making up your picture of them out of what you've dissociated from.
And if you suppress, you don't do that. You've gotten suppression puts it even further down deep, or takes it away from the table more.
Well, for me, the subtlety, the subtle difference is that when I'm in dissociation, I have no, like, suppression to me back then, as I was thinking of, as well, you know, I'm just hiding it from myself. You know, it's over there in the closet. I can go get it anytime I want. It's hiding. But dissociation means, no, it's not in the closet. It's in the vault that's in the vault that's in the vault that's in the vault, and I don't have the combination to any of those locks. I can't access it. I can't change it until I have the combination. And the combination to the vault is forgiveness. That's the password to getting into the vault. Because when I've got something that I've cut myself off from, okay, I'm in denial. What's denial? When I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside. So you made me mad. So now there's a part of me that holds mad, and I dissociate from that. It's now locked in the vault. 1,000 people are going to show up in my life to quote unquote make me mad, that are going to resonate that. Yes. And when they resonate it, because I have no direct access to it, I have no idea that it's mine. It's you who made me mad. And so literally what happens is when that person shows up in response to that dissociated content, and they do the behavior related or literally energetically driven by that content. Yep. You know, if people aren't very conscious, they're driven by all of the energies going on around them. When you get conscious, you realize what energy is driving you, and that's when you can start to take conscious charge of your life. But when that dissociated content resonates, let's say you made me mad because you raged at me. So I dissociate from that whole idea of mad and rage, and with that energy radiating out from me, I literally resonate someone with rage in them. And so they show up and they rage, and when they rage, that resonates that dissociated content in me. That's the matching bag of garbage. And because I have no direct access to it, the only way that rage that they've just resonated in me shows up is I literally build a picture that I call them in my mind, and I paint that picture on the inside of my eyeballs with my mind, and there I can see that this rage really belongs to them. I mean, I can really, actually, literally see it. And I think it's outside of me. But of course, once you start realizing, oh, I'm the one who's feeling this, maybe it's got something to do with me. Right. Then you've got the access of this brilliant piece of information from Yeshua, which says, here's how you forgive. You have a goal for that object of attention that's raging you right now, and that goal is, and it might be a variety of different things. It might be I want them to be kind to me. I want them to respect me. I want them to cherish me. I want them to treat me like a human being. There could be a whole range of goals. Whichever goal is the actual goal the mind is using, you have to hit on that one, and when you hit on that one and you cancel it, then that whole projection from the dissociated content collapses. The whole picture of them as the expression of what I've dissociated from collapses in on itself. Now I have direct access to that hidden part of myself. And when I breathe and when I hold active present love, that part of me dissolves. That's the trick of healing. That's the brilliance of that forgiveness tool from Yeshua.
And it isn't necessarily a one-shot thing.
It absolutely is not a one-shot thing, no. I mean, let's take a look at this situation going on, the one I was just sharing about. I posted it with a link. One of the things that had triggered it, I'd been reading an article from a family that was interviewed, and one of the things they said was, we don't know why this happened to us. These were part of the families in America, and they had several family members who were over there in a kibbutz who were killed. We don't know why this is happening to us. And that was kind of the thing that ultimately triggered, I need to write this in a way that puts out into the world the understanding of how this game of dissociation works, and that we need to reclaim those parts of ourselves and clean them up if we ever want the terrorizing expression out there in the world to be dealt with, to be healed. Has to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, you think about, you know, a family situation like this, how deep, how many worksheets are going to need to be done to deal with, let's say, the brother and sister who grew up fighting with each other and blaming each other, who are just like the brothers that are the Jews and the Arabs who are fighting with each other. There was an expression there. Then there was an expression with the parents, and then there was a power person, and then there was, you know, the group at school that picked on me, and then there was and each of those things is going to require forgiveness to ultimately get back to the space where I can get to the core of this and remove it from my structure. And the fact that not only I, but thousands or millions of people in my family system carry the same trauma, the tendency to keep it to hold it in abeyance, to keep it hidden from myself, is reinforced by the fact that millions of people are doing that. And who's going to have the courage to step up and break the cycle?
Right. And if you
and that's where every tool comes in. You know, the show where a few weeks ago Jeanie shared how there was actually based on the love exchange, how they brought in the Middle East, they brought groups of Jews and Arabs together who just sat in the room and looked at each other and transformed the whole conversation of the community and the relationship between them. You know, it's like, to me, each of those things is what helps to open the field and get us to the point where critical mass can take over and the whole game can change. It's like that exercise we did with the ladies club in Fort Lauderdale. I know exactly why they started to let the Jews out of Israel, or out of, Russia at that time. I know exactly why. It was the piece of work that large group of women did, owning, processing, and looking at their own terror and trauma. So the you know, when Yeshua the physicist says a little leavening leavens the whole loaf, we're talking about critical mass in physics. When we reach a point where the energy system, you know, the weights and balances shift to the side where, oh, okay, so we can take responsibility. We have people who are willing and able and capable of literally accessing horrific traumas from within their own genes and processing through them. And each one that goes through that door makes it a little easier for everybody else to walk through the same door.
May we do it in time.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks so much.
I'm with you 100%. And, you know, the one of the ultimate expressions of all we have to do is kill those bad guys is a psychosis in the mind, ultimately, that comes from that dissociation. And it leads to things, you know, I was reviewing a book written by several psychiatrists about some of the insanity going on here in America in the political system. And one of the things that the psychiatrist that was being interviewed pointed out was that fascism is not a political ideology. This was a major light bulb in my mind. Fascism is not a political ideology. It is a psychosis. It is a mental illness.
Wow.
Now think about every fascist dictator you've ever heard of, and what are they? They're mentally ill. I mean, they do insane, bizarre things to themselves and to each other and everybody around them. So looking at it, I've always thought of fascism as the culture has brainwashed, as well as just another political ideology. No, it's not. The psychiatrist really, like, bingo, was like a major light bulb for me. No, this is psychosis. This is mental illness. And, when a leader is raised up that has that mental illness, everybody who's had the same family abuse, the same, power person abuse, has permission to go into their insanity and blow anybody they want away with it. If the leader is blowing people away with it, well, it must be okay for me. And so, the insanity today that's up in America for healing, the bizarre power person dynamics that allows the rage, the name calling, the violence, the viciousness, the attacks on everything, that psychosis is up for healing big time. And, to me, it's like, so can we get enough people on the team to hold the space for that whole packet of insane energy to be healed? It's time. I mean, it's up there. It's time. So joining you in holding the space within our own family systems, within our own communities, our own cultures, for us all to function as we're designed to function, as conscious, active, present love, and returning to that.
Amen.
And a woman.
Thank
you, young
Michael.
lady. All right, we're down to the last few seconds. The show's going to cut us off. Just invite everybody to have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world.